Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to Coffee Break. This is Dr. Michele. Are you happy today? And I'm just so glad and grateful that we're doing it again on a Thursday afternoon. So, how are you? How have you been? How are you this March? Is it a happy month for you? I know it's the start of Lenten season, but it's not going to stop us to find happiness. Dahil yan ang topic natin ngayong hapon. Part 2 of our topic on finding happiness. So for those of you who are here, I am just so happy that you guys are joining me. I know that we are so busy. Nagbabago na naman ng ating mga restrictions. Parang back to normal tayo. Are we really going to be so happy with it? Or we're going to be on our toes to still be careful? Not naman too praning, but take proper amounts of cautiousness. So ngayong hapon, kumustahan muna tayo. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. I would like you to put there what is making you happy today. Ayan, ano ang nakakapagpasaya sa iyo ngayong araw na to? Just for today, what is it that you have? What is it that you had? What is it that you did that made you really happy? Ayan. So, kasi kahit papaano, I'm sure that we will find our opportunities to be happy, maybe panandalian, pero I'm hoping that through this episode, we're going to go together and we're going to dive deep together on what is happiness about. So please continue putting that comment in the comment section on what's making you happy. Ako, I am just, I am just happy kahit na inaantok na ako. Sorry, I think I woke up at 5 a.m. today just to start writing. And I'm just so happy na kahit na konti, I have progress in writing a book project that I'm doing. So kayo, ayan. So wow, si Lori Lay, 29th civil anniversary, 29 years of marriage. Congrats. Joanna, wow, naka-iced coffee ka. Ako, I think I have iced kefir. I drink kefir. I don't know if you're familiar with the water kefir grains. This is a probiotic drink. Meron naman nagsabi dito, I'm happy after a nap. Gagawin ko yan after. That may meeting pa ako. Joy, sakto ang topic, lakas makalungkot ng period. Yes, pero wag naman nating makalungkot. Malakas magpa-shift ng mood. Yan. But it doesn't mean that we're generally not happy. Because the other day, we talked about happiness. And we said that happiness is actually part of it. It's life satisfaction. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Na parte ng buhay yung happiness. Pero it's not only happiness, it's not only good feelings. It's not only positive vibes. It's not only feeling good. Because happiness is beyond that. Happiness is more than that. What do I mean by happiness is beyond that? Because we have to realize that happiness can actually be a state. It can be a process. It's a state. And, tada, tinitingnan ko. It's a state, it's a process, and it's one aspect of well-being. Diba? Yan yung pinag-usapan natin. Kaya, it's good for us to realize, nasan ba ako dito? In the state of being happy. Where am I? What's making me am I really happy in my life? Magandang tanong yan. Oo nga, no? Parang minsan nakakalimutan nating tanungin, masaya ba ako sa buhay? Masaya ba ako sa meron ako ngayon? So maganda yan once in a while because with all the things that happen to us, I'm sure sometimes our happiness and life satisfaction is in question. Or, since we might be having too much of the wrong mindset and wrong perception about happiness, parang hinahanap pa rin natin siya. Because I know for many, happiness, it's actually about wealth. Many, it's about having what you want. But not really, di naman yata nauubos yun. Di ba? Naubos na ba yung gusto natin? I think marami pa tayong mga gustong i-add to cart. Marami pa tayong project sa buhay na gustong marating. Marami pa tayong bansa na gustong marating. Parang si COVID naman kasi, ayan, naantala tuloy yung mga plano ko. And that is why it's really good for us to reflect on this, because we would like to be well, we would like to be somehow satisfied in our lives, and we want to really find true happiness. Who among you agree with me? We all want to find true happiness, di ba? Kasi pag tiningnan mo yung social media, is this what happened? This is what life is all about. If you're like me that into social media, parang browsing it, wow, nakakapagod. Nakakapagod makakita ng fake news, nakakapagod makita ng mga mga lack of values, nakakapagod na makita ng mga tao na the negativity and then the disinformation happening. But because of that, we really get to be affected. We get affected by it. And sometimes a single post or a message from someone can actually affect and suck out the joy. Suck out the joy. How to become unbothered and affected by what's happening around us? I would like to start with that, Joanna. You know, you can choose that. You can choose that. You can still choose to be happy, but still be bothered. Because if we would be unbothered and unaffected to a certain degree, it may not be helpful. Because we don't want to be apathetic. We don't want to be walang pakialam, because what's happening outside us, maybe the war, the upheaval of our elections, all the disinformation happening, it's actually part of our moral obligation. That's why we are affected. That's why we are bothered, because our future is at stake. Kahit na ano pang, kahit either global or national issue, kasama tayo doon. And if we say that I just want to be unbothered, it's actually, for me, it's not actually true happiness. Kasi kasama naman talaga sa happiness yung difficulties. Yun yung key. Despite everything that's happening, can we remain happy? Despite the war outside, the disinformation outside, but inside me, I am still at peace. Kilala ko yung sarili ko, aligned ako sa Panginoon ko, and I am still finding bits of happiness. I am still in that state that I am good with my life. I think that is what we would like to be. That despite of everything's happening, all the commotions, even the pandemic, still there's that inner happiness. Who among you wants to have that? Yung mahanap mo yung happiness na yun na nobody can take that away from you. I believe that. Nobody can take away that kind of happiness. So, finding happiness, as I said earlier, includes satisfaction and contentment. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that we just be contented na lang and then just be like this. No, I will connect that later. But, di ba, we find happiness with being contented, not with whatever we will have, but making the most of what we have. So, another one, because of that, because we have that sense of contentment and satisfaction, we drive to a life of meaning, purpose, and depth. Ang gandang marinig na, no? Meaning, purpose, and depth. Kasi baka yung gusto natin sa buhay na, ay nako, meaningful yung buhay ko. I'm serving the Lord, and also I'm doing this for my family. So yes, it has meaning. It has purpose, pero lumalalim ba? Ako, paborito kong tanong, bakit? That's the connection. And when you tell me wala lang, basta, for me, that's lack of depth. I'm sorry. But that's actually not a good answer, especially for adults like us. That's why I really enjoy it whenever you're engaging here, because that's why I liked throwing questions here at Coffee Break for you to actually think about, does my life have meaning? Meron bang meaning sa akin yung buhay ko? Meron ba tong purpose? Meron bang kahihinatnan? Meron ba akong ginagawang mabuti para sa sarili ko at para sa ibang tao? At may lalim ba? Saan ba nakapako yung lalim? Sa lalim lang na gusto ko lang lumalim? Or talagang konektado dun sa faith ko? I am connected to someone bigger than me, and that is our spirituality. That depth, I think you know that we like talking to people with depth. Kaya yung mga kausap ko dito sa Coffee Break, I like talking to you guys. Thank you for being here. And I know that I would really say that maybe that's why you like talking to me. Because I'm not gonna just going to give BS. You know what BS means? Uh, you know what BS means? I would like you to really, really think about that. I would really like you to engage about that. Ang gandang malaman ng ano ang meron sa atin. Um, ano yung meron sa atin? Ang magandang tanong yan, no, Lorelei. What's the difference between happiness and joy? This is just on my personal opinion. Last Kirigma conference, the topic, Feast Conference 2021, the theme is joyful, joyful. And joy is actually that lifelong sense of happiness. You can have joy despite difficulties. And meron kasing spiritual angle. Ang joy hindi sinukat ng science. Ang happiness sinukat ng science. Joy, it's not an emotion. That is the state. So if we look at it from the scientific perspective, meaning the positive psychology perspective, the true happiness that I'm saying, not just the state or the emotion of being happy, that's actually equivalent. For me, in my opinion, that's equivalent to joy. Because we always see that happiness is short term, happiness is external, is dependent on material things, happiness may be dependent on just what gives us that feeling, the positive emotion. That's what usually was measured in happiness. But the scientific view of happiness, meaning there is such thing as the science of happiness in positive psychology, I believe that that is the more meaningful and that's the more equivalent to joy. Sana nasagot ko yung tanong na to ng malinaw. Because happiness, as I said earlier, finding happiness includes satisfaction and contentment. So that's about if you are in that state for a long time, you can we can say that you're really in a state of joy. There's meaning, purpose, and depth, and we're creating strong relationships and helping other people. Yun yung maganda. Hindi ka lang masaya para sa sarili mo. Masaya tayo kasi nakakapagbahagi tayo ng sarili natin, nakakagawa tayo ng magandang bagay para sa ibang tao. And that is actually for me, that's why we need to create strong relationships. We can be happy and we can be actually at the state of joy even though that there is concern in the family. But we would like to be happy and we would like to continue strengthening the relationship despite differences, diba? So another thing, this is what I'm saying here. Somebody says here, again, I'll go back to this point, Joanna, unbothered and affected to what's happening around us. And then somebody said here, Cassiopeia, how do you say your name? Happiness is also encourage us to thrive and be purposeful in life. Agree. That's included there. So it's finding meaning, purpose, and depth. Don't forget the depth, friends. And what I would like you to realize is that it requires uncomfortable and painful experience. Parang, what? Eh, di ba parang dream naman natin maging masaya at tapos wala tayong problema, wala tayong hirap, there's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no sacrifices. That's called bliss. That's called bliss, that good feeling alone. But in reality, the true sense of happiness is actually having pain, actually undergoing uncomfortable situation. Like um like you know that you're very uncomfortable. You attended a wedding. For me, the titas here na nagninang or kayong mommy, mother of the bride or diba? We are in that happy state in that wedding. But we know that we are wearing something that is not usually what we're wearing and we are wearing maybe a gown. We have lashes, ladies here, nagpakabit ka ng lashes that you're starting to feel uncomfortable. Tapos medyo inayos pa yung buhok mo at hindi ka sanay. And then you're wearing shoes that might be causing you pain, but it's still making you happy because it's one of the most important days of your life. Am I making sense? Do you know what I mean? I said here that pwede palang mag-exist yung pain and discomfort the same time that happiness is existing. The best day of your life there's discomfort because you have to wear some things that you are not used to, but you love it. You love your look. You love how you present yourself. You also love your gown na pinag-isipan mo yung bag, pinag-isipan mo yung look, yung makeup, the accessories, from top to bottom, hanggang stilettos or heels. Pinag-isipan mong mabuti. But there is discomfort. Tama ka, Kay. Mahirap magkaroon ng happiness in the moment of suffering, kaya it needs a deliberate effort to experience happiness still. Agree. Because even though, imagine, I know lahat tayo, I'm just thinking of the last wedding that I attended. Even though that we are there in that very happy celebration, minsan nagkakaroon tayo ng feeling of discomfort because of one thing or another. But still, are we allowing that pain and discomfort to take away the joy and the happiness in us? Pag sinabi mo na, ay oo, dun ako na bad trip, nasira araw ko dahil dun sa suot ko na sapatos gusto ko nang ihagis, or yung sobrang lamig nung event, hindi ko na-enjoy kasi naka-backless ako. So, di ba? That's the discomfort. But you choose to make the most out of that occasion. You make the most out of that event. You think that that's possible? That pain and discomfort can actually exist alongside happiness? It should be, because that's what true happiness is. Ang dami ko nang sinabi, 'di ba? Ang dami ko nang sinabi regarding true happiness. So finding happiness includes, as I said, let's go back, includes feelings of satisfaction and contentment. Next, drive to live a life of meaning, purpose, and depth. Alam niya, I just would like to segue, no? Meaning, purpose, and depth. Kaya minsan, it's so nice to really see people in social media, honestly. Kasi doon mo makikita yung lalim. Doon mo makikita kung may lalim or kung hanggang saan lang yung alam. Pag yung mga parang feel good lang yung alam, parang okay, is there depth here? Hanggang saan pa to? But then, that's not what happiness is. It's actually toxic positivity. Kung happy, 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 happy lang and good vibes lang ang alam. Because true happiness is also creating strong relationship and helping others. It's just not about us. And importantly, being uncomfortable and experiencing pain to keep us from growing, 'di ba? Kaya naman tayo nagkakaroon ng pain and discomfort because it allows us to grow, it allows us to learn, it allows us to evolve and to pivot. Ang pinakamahirap is actually to just be happy in a state. You know, that's a state of plateau. Walang nangyayari, wala kang high, wala kang low. Can you imagine a life na wala kang high, wala kang low? Puro na lang masaya, puro na lang feel good, puro na lang feeling ko happy na ako kasi okay na yung ganito. But that is not life. That's not real life, because real life will always gives us a package of the good and the not so good. And if we're going to be on a plateau, how can we grow? How can we develop ourselves? How can we learn from our mistakes? How can we learn from the circumstances around us? How can we learn to love more? How can we learn to be more faithful to the Lord? Parang hindi naman pwede na kung paano tayo in our 20s, ganun pa rin tayo at our current stage now. If you are like me, that nag-double na yung age. So, that's what happiness is about, friends. It's actually finding that joy. Like finding Nemo, finding that joy despite difficulties and despite those experience. Agree, Joanna. Discomfort will push us to the direction where we can improve ourselves. Yes, marami nang tinuro sa atin ng discomforts. Even this COVID-19 pandemic, being at home, it all pointed to a lot of issues, but it all pointed to a lot of breakthroughs. Right? The pandemic, it pointed to a lot of issues, but it pointed and it brought about new breakthroughs in our lives. And I think that's something to be grateful for. As I said earlier, happiness is not about wealth. Maraming tao, marami ng resources, marami na silang pera, pero hindi naman sila kontento, hindi pa rin sila sumasaya, hindi pa rin talaga sila nakakatulong, 'di ba? So others are after their status. They just would like to, for example, it's the election. I don't want to judge, but do people really run because it will give their lives a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, or is it actually just giving them a means of resources? Sorry, para maraming ganon. Gusto lang pangalagaan yung pangalan. Gusto lang na hawakan yung pangalan para hindi bumaksak at hindi mawala sa limelight yung pangalan. And you want that. You can have the status, you can have the wealth, but you may not be truly happy. And you may have all the possessions, you may have new cars, vacation homes, luxury condominiums, and mansions, but pwede naman din, hindi ka pa rin masaya. And actually, happiness is not the absence of pain. As I said earlier, they need to coexist. And we need to learn to accept that happiness coexists with difficulties and pain. Am I making sense? So, I would like you to reflect, how is your life of meaning? Are you living according to your values? Ayan. Paano natin hahanapin ang happiness? So, maraming area to. At alam nyo, bawat area nga nito, para isang buong topic sa coffee break eh. So, tingnan lang natin. It was said, some things that I read, is that it has to be a life of meaning. And we are living according to our values. Yun yung maganda. Kaya minsan may mga tao na magtatanong, masaya ka ba? Sabi ko, yeah, anong nakakapagpasaya sa'yo? And minsan, iba. Kasi pwedeng mababaw lang. Yung makakapagpasaya sa akin kasi okay ako sa buhay ko. Kasi meron mga bagay that it's aligned with my values. Kaya for me, very critical yung ano ba yung values mo? Ano yung mahalaga sa'yo? Friends, don't be fixated with trends. Don't be fixated by personalities. Kahit ako pa yan, don't be fixated by the influence of people around you. Look at role models, look at the life that you want, and maybe look at the government that you would like to have based on your values, based on what is in your core, it's what you want. Ito, gusto ko maging ganito yung mga anak ko. Pero aligned ba dyan itong iboboto ko sa eleksyon? Ganyan. So it has to have that value because that values will be our driving force. And we can actually find happiness if it's in sync with how we live our lives. I value simplicity. So, hindi ko kayang maging masaya with luxury kasi I value simplicity eh. I heard from a very good friend. She holds this position in a really luxury brand. And pero alam ko yung values niya eh. Kaya nung minsan sabi ko sa kanya, why did you leave? Sabi niya, hindi na kaya ng sikmura ko eh. Pwede ka on top of the world. You have the title. Maybe you have the status. You have the achievement. Taas ng posisyon mo. Of course, maganda sweldo niyan. You're treated royalty. Pero hindi aligned sa values mo. Meron ka mga bagay na hindi masikmura. So kahit na nandun ka sa tuktok ngayon, kung hindi mo kayang sikmurain, I don't think we'll be ever happy. That's so critical at this time. And I think it's a very good point of reflection for us. What is it that you really want in your life? Ano yung kaya mong sikmurain at hindi? Because that sikmura in Tagalog, that's actually the core, our values that's guiding us. So another thing, I would like you to check also your authenticity. Because if we say that, okay, ito yung kaya hindi natin masikmura. Because we would like to live in our values. And are you still there? Wala na nagko-comment. We want to live in our values and we want to be authentic. Sino bang gustong fake, friends? Sino ba sa atin ang may gustong fake? Ayaw natin ng fake. Ayaw natin ng fake people. Ayaw natin na nagkukunwari lang na lumalapit lang sa atin pag may kailangan. And that authenticity, kahit na sabihin natin na sometimes propaganda yan, sometimes napakyut lang yan, sometimes PR lang yan ng friend mo I would like you to reflect that, but if there is authenticity in a person, she lives what she preaches. They walk their talk. yung sinasabi niya, yun din yung isinasa buhay niya. So I think that this is really a high time that we are, it's really good for us to reflect on the authenticity of people. And marami tayong mame-measure ng mga kaibigan natin na ganyan. Talaga bang authentic siya sa akin o may kailangan lang siya? Kaya siya lumapit, di ba? And I would like you to also check the authenticity of what can really make you happy. Can a luxury brand can make you happy? Maganda yung tanong mo kaya, parang ibang tono niya na. Sandali ha, babalikan ko yan. So, babalik tayo sa life of meaning, na wala ako, and then authenticity. Is it okay to keep quiet when you want to keep peace between you and your friend because you have different opinions? It depends. That actually depends. That depends on the authenticity of your relationship. Will it make you happy? Is it aligned with your values? If you would speak up, not really be aggressive, but actually assert yourselves. I think kasi parang nasanay tayo na dapat tumahimik ka na para maging masaya na lahat. Tama yung sinabi ni Joanna. Sometimes you want to settle and compromise for the sake of peace. Oo, para everybody happy, di ba? Meron tayong ganyan sa culture natin. Para everybody happy, tumahimik ka na lang. But well, is that really happiness? No, that's not. Sometimes you can find happiness in the middle of the storm because you rock the boat. At natutuwa ka na naglalabasan yung totoong kulay. And that's happiness because you might be finding peace because you value authenticity. Ang lalim na nitong usapan natin, friends, at natutuwa naman ako na nandyan pa kayo. So, you have to realize that happiness needs us to have a life of meaning. It needs us to have a life of, to have authenticity. So also, happiness, it's actually about optimism and gratefulness. Alam ko naririnig naman natin to eh. So are we optimistic about life? Na kahit na parang hindi ko makita yung bukas. Parang ang negatibo ng mga tao, pero deep inside you, you still find ways to be optimistic, find hope, and look for the silver lining. Or look at things with, sabi nga, rose-colored glasses. Tinitingnan mo pa rin na maganda yung buhay. So it's very critical because that's optimism. And you would like also to live with a life of gratitude. A life of gratitude that, hey, I would like to be truly happy. I would like to be truly grateful for everything na nangyayari sa akin kahit na nahihirapan ako, I am still grateful. And di ba, a note for people who are happy, with real happiness, it's actually they're very grateful. And also, meron tayong compassion. Nakakalungkot yung mga nangyayari ngayon kasi you see that people are not really happy. Why? Because they lack compassion. They lack compassion. Yung parang they nitpick at ang nakikita na lang nila ay negatibo. Magkaiba yung negative at saka critic. Pero minsan wala naman dapat i-criticize. Lahat kinikriticize, lahat pinapatulan. But it's actually lack of compassion. We're removing ourselves from the real issue. Compassion is actually feeling the suffering of others. It's actually that, feeling the suffering of others. And Joanne, I have learned that it pays to be a good communicator. Before kasi hindi ko ma-assert yung sarili ko properly. Totoo yan. Kaya minsan kailangan natin magsalita. Why? Because we are actually showing compassion. And happiness can actually be living with compassion. Hindi lang basta tayo naawa sa ibang tao. Meron ba tayong ginawa para makatulong? 'Di ba? Minsan parang alam mo na parang may na-offend ka. Pero alam mo naman talaga na mali. Alam mo naman talaga na mali, baluktot. Alam mo na may kinokorek na wrong. Lalo na kung outright na wrongdoing. Pero masaya ka kasi you were able to express yourself and you able to help someone in the midst of compassion. And last point for happiness, I think it's generosity. Kaya ba nating magbigay? Hindi lang to pera. Kaya ba nating magbigay ng oras? Kaya ba nating magbigay ng talento? Kaya ba nating magbigay ng magandang contribution? 'Di ba parang ngayon, parang ano bang ambag mo? Ako, ito yung ambag ko sa mundo. Ito yung ambag ko sa atin to add value to our lives. dahil sa live stream. Hindi, it's not because that I would like to be popular. Wala naman akong bayad dito, friends eh. Hindi naman ako nag-earn because of doing this. I'm not paid to do this, but I'm doing it because it's my way to be generous with what I know, what I can share, and what I can, if I can help one or two of us, kasama ko, na maging mas mabuting tao, mas mabuting nanay, mas maging mulat sa buhay, mas maging meaningful, malalim, at mas maging aligned ang values sa Panginoon. And then I've done my part. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but what I'm saying is that we all have that opportunity to give and to be generous. Diba? This is what I believe it's what happiness is all about. A life of meaning, authenticity, optimism and gratitude, companionship and generosity. Yung bang dahil sa masaya ka, nagbigay ka pa sa iba. Minsan tinatanong ko yung sarili ko, kailan ko ba ititigil itong coffee break? And I think that the Lord really paved the way for this to happen during the pandemic because it's actually blessing me also the same way that I hope that it's blessing you. It's my means of giving. It's my means of being generous with what I was given. So, sana nakaka-bless at sana pati kayo natututunan kasi pag may natutunan kayo, I believe that you will reflect everything that we're reflecting about here to the life that you live. At tapos, everybody happy. And you might find happiness and people around you might also be happy because you are generous to them too in other ways, in other means. So, friends, sana'y nakatulong. Sana'y maganda yung mga point of reflections natin ngayong hapon. And I hope that you remember things that we are in charge of our happiness. One thing that I would like to share with you, we are in charge of our happiness. It's something that nobody can take away from us, and we're not supposed to depend on anyone to make us happy. Tandaan natin yan. We are in charge of our happiness. We cannot be dependent on anybody to make us happy. And we have to make our happiness and ourselves a priority. It's not selfish, but we are just prioritizing our happiness so we can continue to be living meaningfully, living with authenticity, living with optimism and gratitude, living with compassion, and of course, living with generosity. Mahalin mo at pasayan mo ang sarili mo, friend. Hindi yung mema lang, hindi yung mababaw lang. Yung malalim, yung happiness mo naka-anchor, yung happiness natin na naka-anchor with the true happiness that is only found in the Lord. And I believe that's the most crucial, in the more meaningful source of happiness. It's actually learning to suffer with Jesus, learning to suffer and learning to be happy despite the difficulty. That's happiness. Learning and sharing in the suffering because we are suffering also, and learning and finding meaning that, hey, I can find joy. I can find true happiness despite it all. Sana'y napasaya kayo ng episode na ito, and I hope that next week we can do another round of new episode for Coffee Break. I hope that you share this to family and friends, and if this coffee break has blessed you, please share it here how this coffee break has blessed you. Lagay nyo dyan, ano bang nakapagpasaya sa'yo ngayon? Anong takeaway mo ngayong hapon na to dito sa episode? Either you're watching it live or watching it in replay via YouTube, Facebook, or Spotify, please share your comments here. I hope that this blessed you, and I hope also, oh, thank you, Marisa. I hope also if these episodes are blessing you, you can also share this to family and friends, and you can actually support Coffee Break by sending stars that are digital gifts. Hindi po ito pang sweldo sa akin, pangbayad po yan ng aking mga digital subscription to be able to continue this broadcast for production purposes. So this is Coffee Break. This is Dr. Michele Alignay. Stay happy, find happiness, take charge of your life, and be happy. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.